Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Lethal Weapon as well as the latest episode of Blindspot. So first and foremost, starting off with Lethal Weapon, I was actually shocked to find out this got turned into a TV series. I didn't find out till like 2 weeks ago or something when I randomly saw a commercial for it. I think I was kind of bringing it up again, but a YouTube ad kind of got showed that to me. And I was like, whoa, that got turned into a TV show. I was like, that's crazy. I don't even really remember the movies all that well because it's been years since I've seen them. Obviously, there's been more recent opportunities to watch them because it's like, TV tends to marathon them and stuff like that. But I still haven't taken that opportunity. So I kind of went into this kind of not even remembering the movie. So I don't even have nothing to compare it to. But nonetheless, it's still a very nice show. I really like this. Very good first episode. Blend of everything, comedy, drama, and plenty of action. I mean, obviously, on the drama front, we got that whole beginning part. Is like, well, that was just depressing. Nice way to start an episode. I was like, oh no. Because the moment they started flipping back and forth between Riggs and his wife Miranda, I was like, something's about to happen to her. And car accident. I was like, oh god. The moment they get to the hospital, I was like, okay, it's either going to be the bad thing, which is like the baby died, or the worst thing, where it's like both of them died. And both of them died. It was just like, that was sucky. You just saw his entire world crash, Like I said, I haven't seen the movies in a long time. I did not I'm sure that probably is an element from the movies, but it's like I don't remember that at all. But that's like super depressing. I was like, gosh. And at one moment, having your entire world crushed before you, it's like he was just on top of the world, just took that shot and took that car down, went to rush to the hospital to check on his wife who's having their baby. And it just sucks. And it's very interesting because my memories of the movies, I don't remember the character being kind of in a situation he's in, like super depressed. Maybe that's kind of stuff from the first movie, which, like I said, really long time ago. But nevertheless, just you see him kind of down in the dumps. Like there was that whole bank robbery at earlier part in the episode where he's kind of talking to him. Obviously, it flips back and forth very quickly between the drama and comedy. It's kind of like a 1-2, 1-2 type of thing where it's like it's gonna be funny and just hilarious one moment and then just like dead serious the next, which I appreciate. I like that. But the fact of the matter is, he's having a conversation with the robbers. He's like, okay, truth be told, if you want these people to take you seriously, you're going to have to off somebody in here. And then like all the people are listening in on like, what the hell is he saying? He's telling him to kill somebody. He's like, okay, so preferably you're going to want to kill someone who's white. And he looks at a black guy and says like, I'm sorry, but you get the most headlines. Sorry, but it's true. And then he's telling the guy to put the gun to his head. Like the next moment, he's like, pull the trigger. Now, there's part of me is like, it's hard to say what. Well, really, it's a combination. I was about to say it's hard to say whether that was him just trying to distract the dude or was it because he legitimately wanted him to shoot him. And it turns out, I mean, really, when you look at the rest of the episode, it's like it was both. Because it's like you see him in just a stupor, like he's drinking and he has contemplated suicide. I mean, there was even a point at the beginning of the episode, he's spinning a gun and it points to one of him. He just said, points towards him and he just says bang. So. Because what I didn't know was that no one knew about his situation. Like, for instance, Damon Wayans' character, Murtaugh, didn't know. He thought, it's like he knew something was wrong with him because he could tell that something wasn't quite right with him. He was an adrenaline junkie that was kind of okay with dying, but he didn't know the story. I thought like his captain would have informed him, but I guess that was something they didn't know about. It came out at a dinner. They were having fun, laughing and stuff like that, talking about smoking weed. The fact is that Riggs talks about the fact is like his own experience with weed and stuff like that, and talking about the fact that they should get Murtaugh to get high so that he kind of loosen up a little bit. And then his wife came up as a subject and he's like, she recently passed, and it just kind of clicked in Murtaugh's head. It just kind of made the dinner super quiet. It was like no more laughs. It's just kind of that sucks. It's just one of those, like I said, comedy 1 minute, drama the next. So because we even found out, like, because a constant thing throughout the episode is Murtaugh kind of looking at his little Fitbit or whatever, or heart monitor, and his, I guess, well, probably not just his heart, but also his blood pressure and stuff like that. And then, it's spiking every time. Specifically stuff tied to Riggs is kind of amping him up. Because we end up finding out, because you could obviously see the scar on his chest. So I was thinking like, oh, it was like a work-related thing. He had to have surgery. But it's like, no, he had to have surgery because apparently he had a heart attack when his wife was having their latest baby in the hospital. So it's kind of like, wow. That was kind of, I wasn't expecting that to be what that was about. But obviously in this episode, kind of steering, I'm going to come back to them, but, more so than anything, I want to talk about the case a little bit too. The fact is, it was basically a vet who basically shot himself. It was kind of, at first glance, it's kind of like, okay, it's obviously a suicide. He had some issues because he had apparently attempted it in the past, but it turns out, Riggs didn't want to just kind of leave it at that. He's like, there's key signs saying like, okay, this isn't a suicide. And, as they investigated more, it was like, okay, definitely things aren't adding up. It is looking less and less like a suicide. Because basically he wasn't and he was at first, but eventually, things got better after he had attempted to kill himself. Like slit his wrist in the bathtub, but he got a job and he was doing good. He was kind of happier. They were going to move, I forgot where it was, but they were going to move somewhere. So it was just like, why would he kill himself like a week before they're moving? And basically, we end up finding out that he got caught up in the middle of something. His commanding officer was his new boss and basically got him to steal some drugs, and it pissed off some cartels. And then later on part of the episode, they kidnap his son so that, to force his wife to find the drugs and give it back to him. But it was his commanding officer that had it. So, basically how they dealt with the situation is going to be me tying in with like the fact is how actiony this show is. And I appreciate a crime drama with lots of action. The fact of the matter is when he's basically outgunned, all those cartel guys have their guns on him, and Murtaugh breaks through with the truck and just starts unloading, and then Riggs rolls over, gets the gun, starts shooting them, take them all down like in one sweep. I thought that was pretty awesome. And then also, when they get outside, Riggs gets shot, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna sacrifice myself. The moment he shoots me, use it as an opportunity to find where he is and shoot him because you only got one bullet left, so don't miss. And he's like, Murtaugh's like, don't do it. What are you crazy? Find another way. He's like, I want to be with my girl. Like, it was heartbreaking. It broke my heart. He was just him saying it. He's like, I want to see my girl again. It's just kind of, dude. I was hoping he would find another way, but he's just standing there. He's just about to close his eyes like this is moment. And then Roger sees the gun by his foot, decides to shoot him in the foot, and he falls back. The bullet misses him. He picks up the gun real quickly because he figures out where the guy was, and Riggs shoot him. Now, I thought that was pretty impressive. It was like 1-2, bam, done. So that was impressive. But the fact is that he shot him in the foot. It's like, you shot me. Of course I'm not okay. He's like, I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner. I constantly love the fact that they're just like, we would have made terrible partners. Yeah, we would have. Even threw in the catchphrase a little bit when Riggs was like, I know you're too old for this. And he's like, Murtaugh was like, no, I'm not. I'm still as sharp as I used to be. So also the whole thing happening at that Grand Prix when they were chasing the dude, and Riggs got on top of his car, kept punching him. He ended up spinning out. And basically, Roger pulls the gun on him and tells him to freeze. And the guy takes like a step back, and a bus comes in and hits him. And then Roger's looking at Riggs like, what? I didn't kill him. Like, what are you looking at me for? This ain't my fault. I didn't kill him. Because he had jokingly said earlier in the episode, like, they basically took his gun away just because of this whole situation with the bank robbery. And it's like, oh, if anyone's going to get killed, if we're going to end up killing anyone, it's going to be you who basically has to do it. So I also love the fact is that not literally all of it, but multiple times throughout the episode is referencing the fact of his wife giving him a blowjob, basically her way of de-stressing. And the first time the baby monitor went off, and he's just like, oh, she's just singing. Like, don't do this. Don't walk away. Okay, fine. Let's check on the baby. And then nearing the end of the episode, the doorbell rings. She's like, oh, get the door. He's like, no. It's just a win. And basically Riggs cop blocking him a little bit. So I was like, and his wife being like, don't worry, baby. 60's just around the corner. He's like, 60. So I'm really digging the show. Lots of action. Like I said, comedy and drama. And I'm really interested to see how Clayne Crawford, the actor who plays Riggs, and Damon Wayans, which I just think that's so cool that they got him playing Roger like that. That's kind of cool. I'm going to just call him by his first name. I'm just going to call Riggs, or I might call him Martin. I don't know. I haven't decided yet because I'm calling him Riggs and I'm calling him Murtaugh, and then I'm also calling Murtaugh. I kind of slurred it and just then That or Roger, I still haven't 100% decided. I know I'm rambling, but it's just, I don't know. It was fun. At the end of the day, it's very fun, and I'm very curious to see what kind of other crazy crap they gotta get caught up in. That was kind of an interesting conversation in this episode where basically, like, even though he's as wild and as crazy as he is and kind of wants to die, like, even at the end of the episode, that's still something he feels inside of him. Kind of, kind of a sad point in the episode being like him saying, I still want to, but I can't, because if I do, my girl, she'll be disappointed in me. She'll be ashamed of me if I did it. That's the only reason why he's kept himself from actually doing it. And it seems like, because it kind of got brought up earlier in the episode, like how, like, being reckless and wild like he is, how does he still have a job while he's like, it seems like someone higher up is protected, and it seems like that person that's higher up, it seems like that might be his father-in-law, possibly, maybe, because he was like, there was a picture of Miranda there, so I'm like, okay, maybe. I mean, that's how I interpret that. So, but the fact is, he kept referencing to Roger as like, no, like, maybe you shouldn't be a cop. And, Roger took, offense to that, being like, oh, just because you want to kill yourself, you're bagging on me for being scared. He's like, I'm not trying to shame you because you're scared. You're rightful to be scared. Like, nobody wants to die. I mean, except in Riggs' position. But it's like, he knows you want to live, and he just, and especially later on when he handcuffs him, because it's like, I got to do this wild and crazy thing. I might, we might end up dying. I'm not about to do that to you and your family. You got a lovely family. You welcome me in for dinner. There's no way I'm gonna, rob your family of you, so I'm gonna go, cowboy and handle this myself. So it's very interesting that, even in his state, he does, like, it came off a little douchey, obviously, to Roger. Like, he took offense to it, but he was trying to say that out of, like, concern. Like, I see what your whole situation is. I don't want you dying. Like, even though we spent a short amount of time together, I do like you. And, you, like I said, have a lovely family and everything. So I'm very curious to see what they do with the rest of the series. So. And now moving on to this week's episode of Blindspot, where we have a lot of stuff coming to light. Well, not a lot of stuff, but some stuff coming to light. From one, the picture we saw kind of unlocked on Mayfair's files last episode, we kind of get a memory associated with it, because basically Shepard told Jane the truth about it. Like, we learned last episode that Orion was a lot of, like, hush-hush military operations type of stuff, that SEALs would typically handle, but Orion was basically like the off-the-books, very illegal type of stuff, like assassinations and stuff like that. Well, basically that particular picture and memory is tied to, like, one of her final missions with Orion. Basically, the government was shutting down the program, and basically they needed to clean the slate. They want to get rid of all evidence, anything that proved that it existed. So they basically set up that whole thing, and basically her entire team is dead. Like, Jane is the only one that survived. Basically, like, we kind of go back to what Sandstorm wants. Basically, they want to bring down a government to kind of fresh start, because it's like, it's too corrupt, it needs a reboot, but obviously they're still keeping her in the dark. And that, in her mind, it kind of comes up in the episode. Jane kind of wonders, are they really doing the right thing, taking down Sandstorm? Is Sandstorm really the bad guys? Because every turn you look, it seems like the tattoos on her body, which were given to her by Sandstorm, are leading them to take down some very bad people. So it's like, she's like, all they've done is bring to light some very big corruption. So, but obviously it's not that clear cut. Obviously they have their own. There is ramifications for what they're doing, because Nas, the NSA lady, brought it up this episode where she was kind of like, oh yeah, like when they ended up solving the problem, which was basically like, what is it called? The gun waltzing program was basically like, was it like the DEA or the DA basically gives weapons to, like, undercovers to sell, and then they track the gun to, like, high-ranking buyers and stuff like that. But it doesn't always work out, because a lot of times the weapons end up disappearing, and these very, very bad people keep them. So, it doesn't work out that well. So, but in this episode, you ended up finding out, because one of Jane's tattoos that basically Sandstorm gave to her basically was saying, like, okay, there's someone selling these guns, like, someone's using a program to cover up the fact is that they're just outright selling the guns. And it turns out that ended up being a fact. It was a DEA agent, and basically originally it was pointed at a young DEA agent, Valentine, but I don't know why I said it like that, but Valentine. And I obviously quickly find out it wasn't her, it was her mentor, the person she cared about the most, the person that was like very important to her, and ended up, betraying her trust. Also ended up shooting her in an episode where she ended up living, but sadly it seems like she won't walk anymore. So that kind of sucks. I mean, it was a situation where Nas tried to make Kurt feel better because Kurt was the one that was like, bring her along, because it's like he saw the passion behind her eyes that she wanted to, take down her mentor. Like she wanted to be there to take him down, but she got too emotional and got, caught off guard, and it sucked. Because I was actually surprised when she got shot, because I was thinking like, okay, I thought like when they come around the corner, I was like, okay, either she shot or he's shot and he's dead, and it's like, okay, we lost our only lead or something. I don't know, but it was like I wasn't expecting her to kind of be out of the episode. I thought she was going to be sticking around to work with the team, but it's like, nope. As soon as she joined the operation, she was immediately down and out. So that was kind of interesting. But at the end of it all, they were able to stop them, because basically their target was like a plane that had some Mexican diplomats on, officials on. So, but basically Nas was talking about the fact of the matter is that had a ripple effect and affected a lot of stuff. Now, why specifically Sandstorm wanted, like, they were saving lives, but obviously they want the ripple effects. Why they want those specific ripple effects is kind of like, well, we still don't know. Like, because like I said, they're in the dark, and just as much as Jane is in the dark about their operations, even though she's so close, even though Shepard's her mom and Roman's her brother, like she's still in the dark. Granted, Roman wants to tell her, but Shepard still has our reservations about the whole situation. And speaking of them really quickly, it's very interesting. We see like Roman's still pressing it. It's like, yo, we got mom. We gotta like let me go check on her, let me shadow her, make sure she's okay. And Shepard's like, no, don't. She can handle this herself. But he's just adamant about it. Like he's like, she always looked out for me. It's time for me to do the same thing for her. And there was even a point where there was guys that are part of Sandstorm trying to stop him. He knocks them out. He even starts like beating one down, just like repeatedly punching him. His mom had to come in to stop him. Basically, it seems like he has anger issues, combined with the fact that he has dependency issues too. I guess when they were growing up, like she was kind of his rock. I mean, because they predate Shepard. Like she was with the team that came to rescue them, but when they were part of that program, kind of basically making them the killing machines, basically, like they had each other. So she probably looked after him. Like maybe he was mistreated sometimes, and she would be there to kind of defend him or look out for him and take care of him. So that's why he feels so indebted to her. So that was kind of interesting to kind of learn that about Roman. But I mean, a big focus in this episode was the fact of the matter is still suffering the ramifications of like, Jane's betrayal and everything, is like her being back on the team. Not everyone is happy, because obviously you have Tasha being very vocal about the fact that she doesn't like this. She's still like throughout the entire episode, you could just feel her just like burning a hole through Jane with her eyes, which she has good reason. But like I said, I brought it up last time. Let's not forget, you kind of screwed up a lot too. I mean, granted, your screw ups didn't lead to anyone dying per se. I mean, granted, her revealing, working with Tom ended up letting Tom kidnap Jane, which inadvertently led to him getting killed, which kind of let a lot of events unfold. So it's not, Jane's betrayal is the centerfold of it, but everyone else's things going down in the first season had ripple effects. So I don't know. I just think that's kind of interesting. But like I get it. I'm just playing devil's advocate about it. So. But you even had Kurt being blunt about it. He'd be like, oh, I don't want to work with her either. Because Tasha's like, how do you know this isn't a trap, that she's not playing this? She's like, she already played us from the very beginning. I don't want to work with her any more than you want to. It makes me sick. The fact is that she's working here. The fact is that I have to work with her, that she have to be in the same room as her. And Jane overhears him. And that just, And he ends up kind of apologizing a little bit later on, basically saying like he doesn't hate her. The fact of the matter is, it's so obvious that he has his conflicted feelings for her. Yes, he got betrayed by her, but it doesn't change the fact of the matter is they still got attached. I mean, granted, that was because he thought she was Taylor, so his feelings are for her. It's kind of hard for him to really say how he feels, because it's like his feelings are based on her being Taylor Shaw, but he doesn't actually really know Jane because she isn't Taylor. So he was like, he even said himself, it's because he doesn't know her. And Jane said, like, that makes two of them. Because to me, I also felt like he was doing it kind of as a front. It was basically his way of fighting his own feelings because of the way he feels about Jane, because he does legitimately care about him, trying to fight that while also kind of keeping up a front with the other members of the team. Because if they found out that he was being very lax towards Jane, then it would have all, like, it would have kind of blown up his face. Because remember the whole time, like, last season, Reed kept questioning his every decision because it's like, oh man, is he really, like, he put so much faith in Jane, we don't really know her, blah, 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 blah. So it kind of be a repeat of that type of situation. Plus, at the same time, he has whole talk with Dr. Borden, because the fact is he's dealing with his dad's death and everything. Specifically, the fact is he's getting rid of all his dad's stuff, but there's one box left, but he can't throw it away, even though he hates his dad. And Dr. Borden is basically being like, you have issues with him, but you can't confront him. He's already gone. You'll never have that opportunity to kind of vent what you're feeling. Basically him dying kind of took that away from you, but it's like, you have to get over this or your dad's shadow will kind of follow you all over the place. It's kind of one of the reasons why he blew up at her at that time, because it's just like being betrayed by someone you cared about, to find out, everything. He put so much time and effort into repairing their relationship, and he thought so that his dad had did that to Taylor, but they repaired their relationship. He thought she, it's like, no, Taylor's still alive. And then that is another contributing factor. It's also because, he thought Jane was Taylor. So it's like, no matter what their dad did, she was still alive. So it was fine. But now it's like he finds out, nope, Taylor was dead. It does make you wonder really quickly when we end up finding out. I mean, I doubt it now just because of the whole situation in the episode. But it's like, it'd be kind of interesting. We ended up finding out there's another person like, no. Kurt, I know you. It's like, who are you? I'm Taylor, don't you remember? So I think, could be, possibly, I don't know. Because the fact of the matter is we'll really quickly go back and finishing my point first, is that, what was I saying again? That basically he hated his dad before because, he thought he did something to Taylor, but Taylor, even if he did something to her, the fact of the matter is she was alive, but it made it worse because she was dead. So basically, he was being betrayed by the person he cared about the most, and at the same time, he has to deal with that from Jane too. So it's just, he kind of brought his issues with his dad and kind of threw them at Jane. That's kind of the point I was trying to make. Sorry, kind of got sidetracked. I had a pause because my brain was going on the fritz. But the reason why I was bringing up the fact is that Taylor couldn't be, because it kind of got brought up because Jane was like, she looked through the files. It's like no mention of Taylor's body was ever brought up, and it's like, Kurt dealt with it quietly. He did it off the books, that basically he properly buried her. I did kind of get an answer to it because I asked last time, it's like, does Sarah know the truth? Sarah knows the truth because he told her about the fact is what happened. They found her body, and he also told the team too. He gave her a proper burial, and that was it. I mean, granted, did he actually check the DNA? What if that was a different girl? It's still a possibility for that to be because, never really actually checked the DNA, because remember, he just assumed it because it's like, oh, that's where her body was. So you never know. It might be a possibility, or that might no longer be an option. I don't know. I'm very curious on that department. Like I said, just throwing out some random ideas. Not all of them have to stick. They don't have to make the most sense. Just me, just talking it out. That's just my way of when it comes to stuff like this. Heavy like mystery stuff. You got to throw out. You never know. Something might. There might be some validity to these predictions or stuff like that. I don't know. I'm rambling. I'm moving on. I also brought this up last episode and kind of got an answer to it. Was Patterson and Dr. Borden. It's like, yo, what's going on between y'all? Because it seemed like you had like something one of those episodes last season. It's just like, I mean, it does seem like she's, I think after that whole episode where she had David inside her head, that she is kind of better. Like she was able to kind of move past that. And he got her a CD and stuff like that. And they're having that little conversation. I was like, oh, look at you getting all flirtatious, asking her out on a date. I was worried she was actually going to say no, but no, she said yes. It's like, oh, lucky you. Hanging out with the lovely, lovely Ashley Johnson. I feel like I said her name weird. It's weird. Every time I see her, I get a little giddy. I'm like, Ashley Johnson. I don't know why. I guess it's because also, I know I'm kind of going off a bit of a tangent here, but it's like every time I see her, because I'm so used to only hearing her voice. Prior to this show, I'd seen her face maybe like 4 or 5 times. She's a very talented and very pretty lady, but it's just like I'm so used to hearing her voice, and so it's so cool to like just to see her and see her voice coming out of her mouth. It's just a thing. I just really got sidetracked there. It was just interesting to me. Like I said, even at the end of this, you still don't really know how Patterson feels about the whole Jane situation. She's never been nearly as vocal or like as obvious. Like you see Kurt's uncomfortableness, and you also see it with Zapata Tasha, because it's like she does not hide it. Even Ree doesn't, because it's like, well, I mean, it was one thing when we thought she was a pawn, but now we find out her mom is kind of the head of Sandstorm, plus her psycho brother's a killer. So it's kind of like, basically, Sandstorm isn't just an organization like that she was a part of. It's like it's in her blood, it's in her DNA. Essentially, is what he is kind of saying. So it kind of runs in the family. So, and we also had Nas. This very interesting. Well, two things. For one, her and Patterson were kind of bumping heads in this episode, because every time a situation came up, Nas would be using her NSA contacts and computer systems to basically solve the issues. And I think the biggest reason why Patterson had such a problem, because it made her feel inadequate, because it made her feel like, oh, I can't do my job, because basically you have access to stuff that I can't get access to because I don't have high enough clearance. So it makes her feel maybe a little inadequate or useless to a certain, like, maybe that's how she views it. I mean, maybe she just doesn't naturally trust Nas anyway. Maybe because it's like she's coming in and kind of screwing up the flow of their team. Maybe that's how she kind of sees it. But it does seem like they are, working together, especially after Kurt was like, yo, everyone cut your BS. We need to work together. No more, because we're sitting here tearing each other apart. We're all here for the same purpose. We're going to take down Sandstorm. So we need to work together, on all fronts, or this isn't going to work. So since then, they've been seems like they're working together. Now, the other point I want to get to was the fact is that Jane was having her reservations, because it's like, Kurt saying what he said has got her feeling kind of like, ugh, about things. Because it's like she's not sure she can keep this up. It's like, everyone has their doubts about her. No one wants her on the team just because no one trusts her. It's like after everything that's happened, it's understandable, but it's just she doesn't know if she can keep this up, especially this double life. Because it's like the people that she really thought of as her family, her team, no longer trust her. That companionship, that friendship, that love is no longer there, but she is getting it with Sandstorm. So that's what it does. It brings up the kind of like her being conflicted. Like I brought up last time, it's going to be very interesting because she was conflicted before with Oscar. I mean, that conflictedness kind of disappeared when he killed Mayfair, and when everything unfolded, and when she ended up killing him. So it's just kind of like, I mean, she did kill the man she loved, her fiance. So, well, she gave him the ring back. So, but still, the man she loved, she killed him. So that was kind of proof of just how she was no longer really on Sandstorm's side. But like I said, I'm very interested to see how much that will influence her, because there is a big difference. Yeah, it's a person she loves, but this is family. But at the same time, she still doesn't. What disconnects him a bit is because even with Oscar, she didn't have all her memories of their relationship, only fragments here and there. So yes, that influenced her to a certain degree, but it didn't outweigh the fact that he killed someone that she legitimately cared about. Mayfair even threatened the other people she cared about. So, but this time it's different. It's the people that she considered family. But once again, she doesn't have her memories, so maybe her obligations to the FBI will outweigh that. But nonetheless, the point I was getting across to is the fact is that now it's just like, well, you need to do this because if you don't keep your obligations, the NSA will back away. You'll lose your protection, meaning Sandstorm will come after you, as well as the CIA is like, oh, she's like, are you threatening me? She's like, no, I'm just telling you how this is. The fact of the matter is, even brought up the fact is that looking through some files, it seems that Tom Carter, head of the CIA, the one that tried to shut her up, apparently was the one that ran Orion. That's why he wanted her dead so much, because it's like, because realizing that she was a key part of like an operation, a program that was shut down, that's supposed to, like, they were trying to get rid of any evidence of it ever existing. So And then she was basically saying like, "Don't worry, Jane. I'm on your side. I want you to know that you can trust me." And it's like, how is she supposed to trust you when you literally just threaten her like that? You could be arguing like, "Oh, I'm just stating a fact." I was like, "No, you didn't have to bring that up to make her trust you." Which it did seem like she was trying earlier in the episode, because she's basically referencing the fact that no one trusts Jane. She's like, "Well, I'm in that similar position. I'm a Pakistani woman rising through the U.S. ranks. Are in government. So it's like, you don't think people kind of don't give me the eye, like whether they can really trust me or not." So she's like, "I understand you to that extent." So it's kind of interesting to see her try to understand Jane more. But then we turn around and find out it's like, oh, she's listening to some files or whatever, like dealing with the case. It's like, nope, she's listening to Dr. Borden's sessions. So two ways to interpret that. One, she's the mole that Shepard has yet to activate, because she doesn't want to waste the mole. She wants to keep whoever it is inside. I bet you when it's all said and done, it won't be someone we know. It's going to be a situation where it's like, oh, everything is pointed towards being someone we know, but it turns out it's like, no, it's not. Because I don't even think she's a mole. I think her real motive behind that is wanting to find weakness within the group that she can exploit. Not as a mole, but as an NSA agent to kind of get them to do what she wants them to, like to hold leverage over them. That, or she is legitimately trying to find out, whether the team's really reliable. It's not, they got their own issues, and their issues come out specifically during these therapy sessions. Or maybe, she is a mole and she is keeping an eye on Jane, and maybe because that was the one she was listening to. Because it's like, oh, you can always confide in Kurt, because Dr. Borden was basically like, oh, Kurt's dealing with dad issues, he's alone, you're alone, that basically you're both in a unique position to help each other. But it's like, at that time, Jane was like, I don't think I can, because the fact of the matter is he hates me. So I don't know. I'm really aiming for the possibility that she's not the mole. I'm pretty sure that's kind of a misdirect. Like I said, I'm leaning more towards the fact that she, as an NSA agent, for whatever reason, she's just trying to exploit some weaknesses, just like I said, to get her own way. But it could be legitimately she is just trying to test and see whether they're in stable enough conditions or in the right mindsets to really continue doing their work. Because we don't know how many she was listening to. The one we heard her listening to was specifically Jane's, but who's to say she wasn't listening to the rest of the team too? I don't know. And then at the very end of the episode, obviously we got brought up, the fact is, Cade's been spotted. So it's like, oh crap. What we see at the end of the episode, we see Roman kind of knocking Jane out with a needle. And so, to me, it's kind of like, oh, there they are trying to psych her out, because it's like, oh, we captured Cade and got information. They didn't. They're just taking her off the playing field, because it's like, okay, Cade's on the loose. We just had to bring you in really quickly without, any fuss, because maybe they were thinking like, oh, if Jane found out that Cade's still in the area, like she might go after him for revenge. So they wanted to bring her in first, didn't inform her. So it's going to be quite interesting, because the fact of the matter is Cade is on the loose. The whole point, the whole lie was the fact is that he held her captured. Is like, if they capture him and pump him for information, that's basically what the entire next episode is going to be about. The FBI getting to Cade before Sandstorm does. It's going to be very interesting. I think I brought it up before, because I already knew Cade was still alive. Just bad guys that their bodies fall in the water, you never find their bodies. It's kind of like, yeah, they're still alive. They're going to come back with a vengeance. But I brought it up before. It's like, they are in a unique position, because Cade does not work for Sandstorm anymore. Basically, they want him dead. And they've kind of already wanted him dead before. But now it's like, him and Jane are in a unique position, because she knows a little bit more, and she's working with the FBI, and she's like, I'm willing to help you, trying to convince Cade to help them take down the organization. Maybe we'll end up finding out a little bit more about Jane, that maybe at the end of it we'll find out that Jane was actually more ruthless than even Shepard or something like that. Like the whole move of Oscar and killing, like I said, that dude who was in her apartment, the dude that was very important to Cade. I can't remember. I think that might have been his brother. I don't know. Oh yeah, and I'm completely skipping over it just because I kind of got wrapped up in all that. I completely forgot about the other storyline in this episode, which is basically Reed trying to build a case for the DA against Jones, basically that coach from back in the day. Basically, it turns out that he was abusing some of his the people he was training, like where they're like football camps or whatever. It was basically an episode where those two students had went in and started kind of shooting up the place. And basically he ends up confronting someone he met who he knew years and years ago, who basically had a feeling like he might have been one of them, and asked him to kind of talk to the DA. But the DA did listen to him, but she like kind of decided not to push forward with charges against him, because it's like if they went to trial with this dude Freddie, he's a very unreliable source, because it's like, because of everything they did to him, obviously their body they fell, like, you know, their lives kind of fell apart. They got mixed up into drugs and stuff like that. I mean, he got clean, got a job and everything, but that was only like, you know, he's only been in that position for like 2 months, so it's like he's not a credible enough witness. And so the DA was kind of like dropping the charges. And after Reed had already promised Freddie, like, okay, I'm gonna do my best for you, we're gonna make this we're gonna get justice for you. But basically when it ended up coming up is like Freddie was like, yeah, but you know, you can't find any witnesses. What about you? Reed's like, what are you talking about? I wasn't there. I didn't see anything. He's like, you don't remember. I was wondering why you weren't as screwed up as everybody else. And it turns out apparently he did something to Reed, but maybe Reed was so young that, you know, his way of compartmentalizing was he blocked it out and he just forgot all these years because it's been so deep in his memory. Maybe he was drugged and that's why he doesn't remember. So it's like now Reed has to deal with that as well. So that was just kind of an interesting story element, and I'm sure that's going to affect him in an ongoing future, finding out, like, for him, maybe we even see some points where he has talks with Borden about it, like, you know, maybe it's some repressed stuff that he wants Borden to help him get out. I mean, it makes you wonder also, will he confide in Tasha too, because he basically kind of tells Tasha everything anytime he has. I mean, the whole time he was having an issue about the whole Freddie situation, she's the one that was like, you know, tell him the truth and everything. So he does confide in her about everything. So makes you wonder, will he confide in her about this, or will he kind of keep it buried deep down until it eventually kind of comes out in other ways? Because it's like, I don't know. It just, I hope he does talk to someone about it. I mean, because, I mean, for him, I think it's more so than taking down Jones, is also like, you know, finding out exactly what happened to him, why he doesn't even remember. So overall, a very good episode. I'm very interested to see where everything takes us next week. But that's really all I want to talk about in this episode. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.